White House freaked out at House Republicans after the House Oversight Committee issued subpoenas for Hunter and James Biden, requesting President Joe Biden's son and brother appear for depositions as part of the investigation into the Biden family finances. That is all according to a committee spokesperson.
The White House released a memo titled James Comer's latest effort to distract from House GOP failures with political attacks on the president and his family. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre also responded to the subpoenas, saying Republicans continue to double down on a baseless smear campaign against the president and his family instead of being focused on the American people's needs. What they're asking for, what is it that they truly want us to focus on? Oversight
Committee Chair James Comer has raised questions about a personal check Joe Biden allegedly received from his brother James in 2018. The check obtained by the committee reportedly showed the words loan repayment, and according to documents provided to the Washington Post, the president transferred $200,000 to James in 2018. But Comer has continued to dispute that the check was in fact a loan repayment and is ready to question the Biden family about, quote, complicated financial transactions. Now, Comer also issued a subpoena for Hunter and James's business associate, Rob Walker, who, according to Fox News, worked on a joint venture called Sinohawk Holdings, which was meant to be a partnership with Chinese energy firm CEFC.
Okay.
So we're continuing to explore these, financial transactions and connections to Chinese and Ukrainian interests. With the usual disclosure that we've not found any kind of smoking gun. Despite that, Joe Biden's knowledge of Hunter Biden's business dealings, we're aware, go well beyond what he initially conceded. So there is a lot of suspicion there. We also reported last week that the FBI had heard from a number of witnesses, evidence givers, informants about the Biden financial situation, and that investigation was never centralized, and a lot of those tips were not followed up on to the satisfaction of the people working on it at the time.
The check said it's a loan repayment. What can we potentially find if at the end of the day, one brother lends $200,000 to another and it's repaid?
Yeah, no, nothing.
I'm struggling to understand the implications of it here, or what the connections are to any potential wrongdoing. Not that there couldn't be some wrongdoing elsewhere. I'm just really struggling to see how this, help me understand, maybe I'm missing something, how this particular check is a red flag.
It kind of feels like at this point that the committee is just, is putting out a press release for every new financial transaction they uncover, whether or not it looks particularly suspicious.
So the idea is that they wrote loan repayment on it to make it seem more legitimate than it potentially was, that they were doing a CYA, as it were?
I think so.
Okay, well, it will be interesting for them to get testimony to those ends and figure something out. But I'm loath to agree with Karine Jean-Pierre these days, but it's hard to see this as something other than a distraction from the kinds of issues that the American people would like folks to focus on. That could also be said, obviously, of some of these Trump prosecutions. I don't deny that at all. But here we are in the middle of a, economic downturn that Americans are feeling, 2 wars that Janet Yellen says we can't afford, but our national debt suggests otherwise. And we have a Democratic Party that is largely consumed with 4 indictments against the leading Republican candidate, and a Republican Party that's largely consumed with trying to find something on the Democratic candidate for 2024. And we have complete unanimity. While everyone's fighting, these things provide a fiction of there being 2 different parties. We're getting complete unanimity on billions of dollars going out the door to fight 2 wars.
Look, obviously there are more important issues like the ones you raised. I don't think that should preclude or get in the way of Congress looking into serious accusations, and there is a lot to be suspicious of and concerned about with respect to Hunter. Now, I think, in fairness, I try to be objective, I think the wrongdoing involving Joe Biden's brother has not really been the same level of, we haven't cleared a bar of reasonable suspicion to the same degree. Hunter there's suspicion due to the work he was employed to do while Biden was vice president. He was employed as essentially a lobbying figure by Chinese and Ukrainian interests, and Joe Biden did have control over Ukraine-related policy. They paid him. They lowered his salary when Joe Biden was no longer vice president, probably because they did not see that as a worthy contact anymore. And then most suspiciously, and then of course there's the, all the our dissatisfaction and the dissatisfaction many conservatives have with how the matter was investigated by the FBI, by the IRS. And then you have this plea deal which protected him from any of the more substantive inquiry in the future that we were hoping might happen, that even the judge rolled their eyes at. So on the Hunter end, yes, we want to continue to look at this and go through this, but merely a loan repayment from his brother, who is not really under the same shadow of doubt, I don't think it really matters. Is that fair?
Sure. I mean, you've made the argument in the past that Trump election denialism, which is obviously the subject of 2 of the indictments against him, doesn't play well in an electoral context. The 1-6 truthers didn't do well in midterms, that Republicans do better to just pretend that's not going on and downplay it, at least when they're actually running for office around the country. And Democrats, understanding that, want to continue to focus on election denialism. Do you see Republicans, is there any evidence from ads that are being run so far, successfully exploiting concerns around Joe Biden's corruption in the same way that Democrats have been exploiting concerns around Donald Trump's corruption?
Well, I think it's a little different. I think Republicans, it's more a matter of keeping faith with their base. Republicans, the MAGA Republicans who ran for office and were elected pledged to investigate this matter. And while I think, not do it, all the election-related stuff is very bad electorally. If you promise to look into the Hunter Biden matter seriously, and then you don't, there's going to be a lot of it's one of those, another example of the Republican Party letting down its own voters, letting down its own base. And I don't think they can be perceived to do that. They have to take this matter seriously. Looking
into it and coming out of it with a head on a pike are not exactly the same things, right? I mean, this is like Letitia James. The argument is she ran on, prosecuting Trump. It's a political prosecution. It's not fair. It's not meritorious. It's wrong for her to do that. I think that that's a legitimate argument. The idea that she should, if she ran on investigating Trump, seeing if there was any wrongdoing, and then making a decision one way or another when you see the facts, I think that's a more credible way to go about it. And I do think she's discovered wrongdoing, no matter how kind of petty and de minimis it is in the grand scheme of things, in the grand scheme of crimes, in the grand scheme of things that even Donald Trump has done. But there is something that feels like a not nice parallel between those two cases of Republicans doing the same thing, and are they just not going to stop until they have some kind of trophy, because otherwise it looks like they have erred.
But Democrats are not going to stop either, right? There's no the sides couldn't come to a deal where we're going to stop looking too closely at the Hunter Biden matter, and you're going to back off Trump on some of these legal that's not going to happen. I mean, it's different. It's not even the teams aren't. Here's a person who can make that deal on behalf of the Democratic side, right? Because the various attorneys general are going to pursue whatever they're doing. And also, I'm not sure from a libertarian standpoint I would even want that, because ultimately these are government officials, and I want them subjected to the highest level. They're political figures, and they should be subjected to the highest level of scrutiny.
So that's how we get to all sides bad. All government actors acting outside of the interests of the American people, focusing on things that don't matter, and that's how you have the public broadly detached and disaffected from the processes of government. I don't know. This does.
I mean, they could be detached and disaffected by political figures, lying and cheating and stealing with impunity, and nobody doing anything about it.
Yeah, these seem to be our options. Criminals who are prosecuted, criminals who are not prosecuted.
I mean, it's easy, right? It's easy to say people should only be prosecuted when it's totally legitimate and fair and all above board, and the people I think are bad are being subjected to fair prosecutions, and people I don't like are crooks and swindlers, and they should get the book thrown again. You know what I mean? It's At the end of the day, that's,
No,
well,
but
then
there
that's
are
politics.
real-
Then you vote for the side you
No.
think is right, and they're going to pursue the other side.
I'm just saying that there are more meritorious prosecutions. I think that the 1-6 prosecutions are meritorious prosecutions. I think investigating any involvement with war crimes that Joe Biden might have been a part of when he was vice president, or frankly now, would be a more useful prosecution. It's not that I'm against the idea of doing it. It's just, are we doing ones that are about the interests of the Democratic Party and being able to say, oh, look, Donald Trump lied about the size of his apartment, fee on him? Or are they doing ones that actually make Americans safer, make our military more accountable, make our politicians more accountable, going after tax cheats and millionaires and billionaires, the kinds of things that would actually benefit the public? That's all I'm saying. But, you know, you get the drift. Let us know what you think about these. And are you hopeful that something is going to come out of this particular prosecution with the Joe Biden crime family, as they're called? Stick around. We're rising for you right after this.